Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon if you are here in Europe, and good morning if you are from Mexico, if you are in Mexico. Welcome to this international event, the second edition of Hack STEM. I'm Diego Do Cabo, co-founder of Spanish Startups, and we are organizing this amazing event thanks to Siemens Gamesa. It's a pleasure for us being here another year more, the second edition, promoting STEM education and innovation. Thank you to everyone who is here listening us and who is watching all over the world in Zoom and LinkedIn. Today we have an amazing roundtable with experts of STEM education coming from different companies. And before starting this amazing roundtable, we would like to play some welcome words from Javier Fernandez Combarro, the Chief Human Resources Officer of Siemens Gamesa. Let's play his words.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Javier Fernandez, and I'm really sorry that I'm not physically there with you all. I wanted to be online, but I can't. I have other commitments that I had to fulfill before. But still, I would like to thank you all for attending this event. It's the first roundtable of Hack STEM 2021, and we are all looking forward for it. I would like also to thank, the people who collaborated with us. I mean, the first one is obviously Spanish Startups, who together with Siemens Gamesa, we are pushing this initiative forward. We also have to thank, the people collaborating with us. And let me mention some of the key players like Microsoft Education, Lego Education, UNICEF, and SDSN from the United Nations. But also, there is some universities who are supporting us in this journey. Again, Universidad Polytechnic de Madrid in Spain, Ibero de Puebla in Mexico, Ain Sams University from Egypt, Aalborg University in Denmark, and the Hamburg University of Technology in Germany. Having said that, let me tell you a little bit of background why we are doing this. I think that we have seen, in the last couple of years, a big crisis connected to COVID-19, terrible. We're just getting out from it, hopefully. We hope that it's not going to be repeated again, but for the last years, and I'm not talking about 2 years, for the last decades, we have seen a deterioration of our climate and weather conditions. And it is getting to a point that if we don't do something radical, things will get really, really worse for our new generations. So, good thing is that, we have solutions for it. And that's something that we are trying to explore together, right? I think that finding a way of getting clean energy, it will be absolutely key, to be able to survive in this planet in a few generations. And that's why we are also trying to find the right people out there who can help us, saving this planet. So why we need that? We need people, with the STEM education that now we're seeing, out there that, there's the motivation for people to study these careers is decreasing. Especially on the female part of it, also the percentage of people who are under STEM education is really low. And we really think that, we have a fantastic opportunity to change, this world. And it's not so many jobs that you have an opportunity to change the world. So please, keep pushing for it, keep joining us. Let's try to promote STEM education all over the place, and let's save this planet, and let's make this, a better world for the generations to come. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Javier. Thank you very much, Siemens Gamesa, for promoting this event. And okay, let's go. Carlos Sentis, the CEO of World Innovation Alliance. The floor is yours. Let's start.
Thank you so much, Diego. It is a great pleasure to be here with all of you. It is a privilege to participate in this beautiful initiative. And I wanted to thank Siemens Gamesa, thank Spanish startups, and thanks to the audience, of course, because we are very, very happy to have them, and also because this shall be a moment of co-creation. We just heard the words about worsening conditions, but also the opportunities and solutions that we have ahead of us. And it is our role to see what we can do together to push things forward, to improve the situation. And there's actually so much that we can do if we collaborate and we learn from each other. A very, very short introduction, so you know who I am. My name is Carlos Santis. I am the founder and CEO of the World Innovation Alliance, which brings together companies, institutions, and remarkable individuals from 150 different countries to find and apply specific solutions for problems in healthcare, environment, poverty, human rights, and education. We are launching a large initiative in education that is called the New Education Project. And what we aspire to do is to create a solution that can help to improve education and also to expand access to education. But we will be discussing much more about that later. The most important thing is that we are here today surrounded by extraordinary panelists that are experts in education, but also experts in policy, experts in international relations, experts in multi-stakeholder collaboration, people that have worked for a very long time on the actual solutions that we need to make things better. And that's why I am thrilled to introduce to you the panelists that we have for today, not without thanking again Diego, Theo, and everybody in the organization. What a remarkable job, and how happy we're all here to be here with all of you. So first of all, I'm going to introduce our panelists. Then I will give a brief remark about the situation that we see, some of the talking points, some of the things that we consider to be important to understand what can be done about education. How can we improve education? How can we foster solutions? How can we leave no one behind? Because at the end of the day, we need to remember that education is not about tests and grades. It's not about books. Education is about helping people to improve their lives so they can help improve the world. And we have to do everything we can to actually help others to improve their lives. And that should be our focus. And STEM education has a huge role in that particular space. So without further ado, let me introduce our esteemed panelists. First of all, I would like to introduce Inés Sánchez de Madariaga. She is adjunct director at Universidad Polytechnic de Madrid with advisory roles in many different organizations, from the United Nations to UNESCO, UN Habitat, and other UN agencies, to the Council of the Network of Sustainable Development. She has 30 years of professional experience, 20 of them in the field of gender equality and STEM fields. She has done so much to foster gender equality, to foster education, and also she has done something that I consider to be incredibly important, which is advocating for reform. And she has participated in initiatives at a national level, international level, from the European Union to globally. And I'm sure that she can share with us a little bit about what can be done, what has improved along the years, but also what are those things that we shall continue trying to impulse, because as you know, as much as we want to improve the situation, many times some of the initiatives get stalled. And I would love to know what are exactly those barriers that Inés has found, and how can we overcome those barriers together. So thank you so much, Inés, for being here. It is a great privilege to have your vision and your experience with us today.
Thank you. Do you want me to speak now, or are you presenting everyone?
I am presenting everyone first.
Okay.
But of course, we're going to be very happy to hear from you. So if you want to also give a free introduction remarks, you can do that as well. Okay, so we will continue introducing the panelists, and then we will start with the questions, and everybody will have the opportunity to speak. So secondly, I wanted to introduce Stephen Mackenzie. He is Senior Concept Development at the LEGO Foundation. Now, many of you may not know, but LEGO is extremely involved in education. LEGO and LEGO Foundation have done an incredible job, including work with refugees, work to help with gender equality and providing education for girls all over the world. They're working on extremely innovative solutions, technology, and so much more. And I think that Stephen is going to be the perfect partner for us today, not only because of the role that he has in LEGO, the work that he has been doing, but also because he has been a teacher for many years, and he knows the vital role that a teacher can play, the vital role as a role model, all the important things that a teacher actually shares with children that many times we take for granted, the importance of the participation of students in the co-creation of the actual education that we want, and obviously as well the role that families have. The work that Stephen has done in LEGO and in his own personal career has been extremely valuable, and I think that his thoughts are going to be really, really useful for all of us to understand what is exactly what we can do in a practical way to make things better, to impulse education, to provide access and retention of girls in STEM, and also the family support and the engagement, also to have collaboration between students all over the world to collaborate to support the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So thank you so much, Stephen, for being here. It is a great, great privilege for us. Next, thank you, Stephen. So next, we have Leticia González Castellano. She's working in the innovation unit of UNICEF, and she is such a kind person. We've been working together for the organization of this event, and every time we speak, it's just absolutely adorable. And that's a personal note, I'm sorry, but I have to say it. And she is really, really professional, but also she has been incredibly committed to the mission of UNICEF and to kids and to education for more than 10 years. She has worked in different positions in UNICEF, from fundraising to engagement with celebrities, influencers, and communicators to make sure that we can reach more people and bring more people together. She's passionate about it. And more importantly, she's passionate about the solutions that have to be implemented. The work that UNICEF is doing to make things better in a practical way, the actual impact that it has in families all over the world, the numbers behind it, the millions of people that are affected positively by the work of UNICEF, the way that all the support that UNICEF receives from funds all over the world, how it's actually delivered to the people that need it, is simply remarkable. And she has been in the forefront of that. She has been obviously involved in some of these worst crises that we're experiencing now and in the last years. She has seen people in extremely difficult situations in Liberia, Bangladesh, Peru, Senegal, and how UNICEF is providing value there is just remarkable. Also, happy coincidence that UNICEF is partnered with LEGO as well. So it is great that we have this panel where we have different partnerships and everybody is actually working under the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So thank you so much, Leticia, for being here. We are really, really happy to have you.
Thank you, Carlos. Thank you to you.
Thank you. And lastly, we have with us the most important of all, and I'm saying that because she is one of the most important reasons why we're here today. Rocío Millán, she has been extremely important to the creation of this event, alongside with Diego Del Cabo. Rocío, she is technology, education, and social commitment manager at Siemens Gamesa. It is absolutely remarkable to see how this woman works. I have to say that even at 12 at night, she was still sending emails and working and making sure that everything was okay, that we were all well informed and well put together. It was just a delight to work with her. And she is putting so much into this because she knows how important STEM education is, how important collaboration is, how important innovation is. And so it is just wonderful to have Rocío Millán with us today as well to complete this session that you can see that has private sector, public sector, and a cross of foundations and also international private initiatives. And I think that we are going to learn a lot. Unfortunately, we don't have time for everything that we would like to discuss, but just every single thing that our panelists are going to share is going to be valuable. I guarantee you that. Thank you so much, Rocío, for being here.
Thank you, Carlos.
Well, so before I start, I just think that it would be relevant to mention a couple of things. The first one is that we take for granted that education is fundamental for our economic development. And we see how our political agenda many times is so far away from education. And, far from expecting that both sides, the left and the right, or whatever it may be, agree on exactly how can we improve education and how can we reform education and provide education for everybody that needs it. We just expect that education is talked about, that education is something that we do our best to impulse, because education is the single most important pillar for us to create economic development, especially in places that happen to be under difficult situations, under poverty or conflict. Education is vital, and it is vital for all of us. It is vital for girls and boys that sometimes are deprived from it. It is vital also for people that are older, because according to the World Economic Forum, in the coming decade, 50% of jobs are going to change because of technological disruption. And more than 2 billion people are going to need reskilling or upskilling, which means basically that all of us need education, and all of us are going to need STEM education. We're going to need to learn more about how to innovate, how to adapt to the innovations, how to use technology, and how to not be disrupted by technology. The opportunity that we have through education and innovation to make things better is huge, but the problem that we can face if we're not able to deliver the right education to the people that need it the most is going to make us to have an even worse situation now that we have these economic, health, and social crises converging together. So education is vital. We can agree with that, but we need to do more, and we need to make sure that we innovate and we change the things that are not according to the current needs. The education system has done extraordinary things for us, but it is clear that the world is changing very fast, and our job market is changing very fast as well. So we need to make sure that our education institutions and all the education that we provide, no matter the age, actually meets the job market, the needs that our real world needs. In that way, we're going to be able to provide more opportunities for everyone. And now, with that being said, what we want to do today is to have a huge focus on practical solutions. What can we do? What can we do as different types of people and different types of organizations? What can governments do? What can companies do? What can foundations do? What can teachers, schools, and students do? It is a matter of what can we do to co-create the future that we want. STEM education is vital. Education is the key, but we need to do our best to put our different efforts and resources together, align interests, and make things better. So with that being said, let me start by asking just one very brief question that goes for all our panelists, starting, if you want, in the same order that I started the introductions, which would be starting with Inés. And that question would be, what do you think is the single most important challenge that we have to face, and the best solutions that you think can help us to actually provide education for all and to foster education, including for girls, including for refugees, education for all, and to foster STEM education? What are the biggest challenges and the best solutions that you think we should focus on, Inés?
Well, I think there are several levels. One thing is to ensure education for all, and reaching out to, for instance, girls in Africa or refugees, so people who don't have normal living conditions, and that would allow them to access even secondary education. So that would be one level of the problem. And this implies going beyond education to ensuring some basic things. For instance, for women, access to toilets in schools. That's one thing. Then we need, at another level, there's a lack of vocations in STEM in most countries, also among men. So that's an issue, that we don't have enough vocations, not among women, but not either among men. So we need to foster interest in STEM fields in most countries of the world, particularly in Europe. We have also in the US. In India and some countries in Asia, it's not so much the case, but overall, there's a lack of vocations for STEM. And then there's a particular problem among women, because there's a particular lack of vocations in STEM among women. And this requires showing that STEM is a field of endeavor, of work, of study and of work that implies improving people's lives. there are quite some empirical evidence that for women, for young women, it's important when they develop their vocations in early life. It's when in between 5 and 7, that's when vocations are mostly defined. So that for women, seeing how something relates to people and to social interaction and to life is important. So in STEM, we need to show how technology and STEM areas relate to well-being and to life, and that's particular to reach young girls and women. So I would say that would be like a first overall issue. And then there's another very important aspect, which is that in many parts of the world now, the gender gap goes the other way around. Overall, not looking at STEM, but looking at general study, there's a biggest dropout among men. So now we are starting to have a problem of having of ensuring men's education in the overall higher education system.
Well, you mentioned really, really vital points, and I wanted to follow up really quickly with the policy part, because you have been involved in policy for a very long time. And I was curious to know, and I think that the audience as well, is what are the things that you've been able to actually advocate for that have worked? What are the actual policies that have proved to be useful? And what are the ones that maybe have stumbled upon some resistance? And what do you think we could do to overcome those resistance?
Well, when we look particularly at the field of women, which is the one I've been working particularly, to know how to work on what to do means first to understand what are the problems and the causes of the inequality. And one main aspect is gender bias and the different valuation and assessment of merit between men and women. So ensuring that people understand how gender bias in the assessment of merit works is a very important thing to ensure that there's an open career for women in STEM particularly, and that you can eliminate barriers to women's progression in careers. Because many people think it's mostly an issue of conciliation of family and work life, and that's not exactly true. I mean, of course, there's an issue of women having more time, and it's a very important thing and has to be addressed too, the issue of balancing work and life, and to put in place measures that will reduce the workload or the comparative problems that family has for women's careers. But then you also need to look at bias. And so and there are a number of ways to work on bias, and then there are a number of measures. I think that the umbrella measure that has to be like the one on which specific measures have to be integrated is gender equality plans. Gender equality plans allow to create, for instance, programs for mentoring, for role models, for creating data, for addressing bias, for ensuring equal representation and gender balance in committees and other kinds of representations, and so on. So gender equality plans are a main tool. And then you also need specific structures, both administrative and advisory, that are located within organizations at a sufficiently high level within the hierarchy of decision maker, making that have the possibility of addressing and also of implementing the policies.
Well, thank you so much for that. That is a great framework and a really, really good, I would say, even action plan to move forward in that direction. And I know that Stephen has worked a lot on plans to make Lego help precisely with that, with biases, creating universal sets that are for boys and girls, and fostering games that can also help boys and girls to be more interested in STEM from the very beginning of their lives. So Stephen, can you let us know a little bit about the inclusion plans, the work that you do with girls and mothers, and maybe also a little bit more about how do you think we can make STEM as attractive as possible. I think that that was also mentioned by Inés. We need to make STEM attractive, and also to, on the one side, make education attractive for boys that are dropping out, and make STEM attractive for girls that may not be so interested because of many of these social and complex issues that we were talking about. So the focus would be on gender, just following Inés' conversation, and then a little bit more about what do you think we can do to make education and STEM education attractive and appealing, engaging, and fun, knowing what Lego does.
Absolutely, thank you, Carlos. Yeah, and great words from Inés as well to follow. So really, within the Lego group and what we do with even if you just have a simple pile of Lego bricks laying around, you immediately start tinkering, you start playing, you start building, and you create, and then you break it apart and you rebuild it. And that sort of overall message of let's be playful, let's be engaging. Yeah. Let's help people to feel confident about the thing that they're doing, because again, if I try to build something and it's not exactly what I want to build, I can break it apart and I can build it again. Yeah. So that being allowed to fail and try again, and this goes for everyone, right? This goes for students, it goes for parents, it goes for teachers, it goes for policymakers, even though policymakers are less likely to admit to failing and needing to try again. We've seen this across the world, time and time again, being able to lower those barriers to entry and being able just to engage from those earliest age groups. As we know, students are opting out of STEM subjects earlier and earlier in their school lives. And a lot of the time that's because of whatever is mandated on the curriculum to have to teach simply isn't engaging enough. It's not exciting enough. It doesn't quite talk to them as the people that they want to be. And I think part of that then comes from how can we flip the paradigm slightly towards what are those skills that we really want them to, students now to be learning. And it goes for girls and boys. And again, you mentioned, Carlos, that the Lego group is making great strides in making gender neutral Lego sets. So we've stopped saying, hey, here's a friends set. It's very pink, it's very purple, it's clearly for girls. Here's a city set. It's very gray, it's black, it's got police officers in it. It must be for boys. And we've started to structure Lego sets and the building experience around a problem to solve, a passion the child might have, an interest that they're going to have. The reason that they look at that set and either want to build it or play with it is because of something inherent and exciting to them. And it doesn't matter what their gender is. And we need to stop playing into those stereotypes. And then what you find with any Lego set, but specifically where we produce for Lego education and the research that the Lego Foundation does specifically in education and specifically with policy, is then, okay, how can we continue to talk and continue to build problem solving as a key skill? Yep. Resilience as a key skill, communication as a key skill. Yes, we totally accept and appreciate that literacy is number one. It has to be the key skill. The moment you have children who can read and write and speak, that it opens up the world to them. But there are base underlying skills that we also need to learn. And as you said, Carlos, if 50% of the jobs that the children are going to have in the future probably don't even exist yet. They're developing from the jobs we have now. When I was, 10 years old in school, I hadn't heard of a mobile phone. So I didn't know that you needed a mobile phone engineer and a mobile phone developer and an app developer. None of those things existed. So I didn't know it was a job opportunity that would have come my way as an adult. And we don't know what those opportunities are going to be in 10, 20, 30 years time. But what we can create is a situation where children are learning to be able to problem solve. Whatever gets thrown in your way, you have the skills to decode that problem, to debug it, and to work on it and to iterate on your solutions. If we don't have resilience, we have the situation where we have now, where you give up after 10 minutes of, well, we can't solve this. Well, we'd have never got through the COVID-19 situation, even to the point we're at now, unless we'd have had the resilience to keep moving with it. And I would specifically call out teachers in this instance as being one of those sets of people who've had to have true resilience. They've learned and had to learn as they've been going brand new skills to be able to get education to the children that would normally be in their classroom and haven't been. And then how do we communicate? It's so important. And this panel of people and the people that we have working on this Hack STEM project is a sure sign of that, because how do we communicate across borders, across different policies, across different cultures, to make sure that we can still agree and move forward with those pieces. And you might say, well, the Lego group, Lego sets, Lego bricks, it's a bit flippant. It's a toy, it's something to play with and discard, and it's not really education. But actually, again, gender bias and stereotypes and traditional roles and culture, toys and their like are the sorts of things that cross those barriers, and we can talk to everyone through what we provide. And I think we have a big obligation to stand with policymakers to make sure that we get the best education for children out there.
Well, that was a wonderful, wonderful introduction. I love what you said. And there's a couple of things there that I would like to discuss. One of them being problem solving. Of course, literacy is absolutely vital. But as you say, problem solving and resilience is vital because of one reason. Our lives are full of problems. And many times we are not prepared to deal with problems. We never discuss how to solve problems in a practical way. And Lego and other tools and other frameworks allow you to learn how to practically deal with issues that you can have in life, and also prepare for things that are bad, that can happen. And people need to know that bad things happen as well. So problem solving and resilience is vital. Skills education is key. Most of our education is based on knowledge and theoretical information, but not actual skills. And those skills are going to be needed for sure. And definitely, I would say that gamification and this process of communication and growth, we paint it normally the way we do it in the lectures that we do and the projects that we're launching is by considering individuals as the character of a video game that has different levels, and they keep growing. And the better their level, the more able they are to face challenges in their lives. And so they take responsibility for their own growth, because it's not about grades, that it's other people's problem. It's more that they want to improve themselves just like they do in a video game to defeat their enemies. And I think that the way Lego is working on these problems is absolutely marvelous. And I think that it's definitely the way to go. And I think that this actually is a great way to start talking about some of the problems that we are facing in terms of accessing education. Because when we have the teacher and the school, and we have mentors, and we have all the materials and all the means that we need, then it is a challenge to educate kids. But sometimes we don't even have that. Sometimes there's this digital divide with people without access to the internet, without devices, sometimes without schools. And there's so many situations where we simply don't have the right environment. And I just mentioned one instance that I have of one of our members living in Cameroon told me that kids were going to the streets in the middle of the COVID crisis, not going to school, not staying at home, going to the streets because they needed to sell stuff to survive, because their parents thought that they needed to eat more than they needed to take care of the virus. So the key element is, how can we provide education, and how can we incentivize education, and how can we make the case that education is actually going to lead to economic prosperity? How can we tie that economic prosperity, the entrepreneurship, the job opportunities, money making with education, especially in places that are in need? So this question goes for Leticia. Can you tell us what can we do to reduce the barriers of access to education? What do we do in difficult situations like the ones that we just mentioned? And what do you think should we focus on to foster STEM and to foster education in general?
Yes, Carlos, I think our main priority and our main challenge now is that we are facing a really crisis in education. We have been living 18 months of COVID, and today 77 million of children are out of school.
Yeah.
And this means not only that they are not in the classrooms, this means that they are missing meals and routine vaccinations. This means that they are experiencing social isolation, and they are increasing their anxiety, and they are being exposed to abuse and violence. As you said, they are not going to schools, but they are going to other places to keep going on their lives, no? And this situation has also led to drop out child labor and child marriage.
Yes.
We need to ask not just what children need to re-engage education, but specifically, what do girls need? How do we bring the learning environment to the most marginalized children?
Yes.
What options are the affordables for distance learnings? What incentives their returns to the classroom? How do we mobilize community and parents to help them to understand the value of educating children and young people? How do we increase the investment? I mean, life doesn't freeze during a pandemic, and some children during this time has benefited from digital learning modalities, while others have learning opportunities removed. Girls in particular face more pressure than boys to prioritize household chores and family care. And the fact is, even in temporary lack of access makes it difficult to re-enter education. School closures due to COVID-19 could drive 20 million more secondary school age girls out of school once the crisis has passed. So this generation of children and of young people cannot afford more disruptions to their education, and which is what we are calling governments to reopen schools. This is like our first priority, to reopen schools as soon as possible to get education back on the track. But in this moment when, as you said, as Inés said, and Stephen has said, that countries are looking for ways to getting children learning again, there is once in a generation opportunity for public COVID. As COVID continues to disrupt education systems worldwide, digital learning should become an essential service for parents, for teachers, for children. Don't forget our, as also Stephen has mentioned, teachers, parents, that maybe they don't have the skills or the knowledge to give their children the capacity to keep learning. So with the initiative of reimagining education, UNICEF is proposing a battery of solutions to encourage governments, stakeholders, private, public sector to adopt 5 key areas of action so we can go ahead to provide, to unlock the opportunity, the choice of learning for every child and young person. And these 5 key areas are world-class digital learning solutions, connectivity, devices, affordable data and content, and one of the most important things that is young people engagement. And that's why initiative like this one is super important for us. Why? Because the young people that is today connected to this roundtable or that will be participating on the hackathon, they have the opportunity not just to be the protagonist of creating a tool that could empower other children, other girls, other boys to STEM. They could be taken by them like positive STEM models because they give them confidence and another way of thinking. So they have a challenge, but also with this challenge, they are encouraging a big responsibility that is increasing these, as Inés also have mentioned, this capacity to go ahead with STEM, not only for developing STEM careers, but also for developing STEM skills and ways of learning to solve problems, human-centered with a human-centered perspective. And because our global challenge is to prepare children for life, for work, and to have an active citizenship for this 21st century, which has changed a lot from our Convention of the Children's Rights when we have imagined the world for them. It's a very, very different world. So sorry that maybe I have go very long, and that's all. I don't know if I have an answer, but sorry.
That was absolutely fantastic. And this is exactly what we wanted. The commitment of international organizations to bring together the public and the private sector, but also bring society so they can also be a part of the solution. There's millions of people all over the world, and I see it with students, I see it with volunteers, I see it with professionals, with retired people, that they know that they want to do something, that they can feel that they can provide some value somehow, but they lack guidance. And that's why the UN SDGs are so great to have the same umbrella, but also why we need leadership, and we need a very clear sense of what are the 5 most important points, exactly what are the priorities, and what can we do. If I am a company, maybe I can provide devices. If I am a telecom, maybe I can sponsor some data so people can download free educational materials. If we're talking about something that you mentioned, that is mobilizing society, how can we mobilize communities? Well, what you realize is that most people can teach something to everybody else. You may not have a population of all teachers, but all of us have something that could be taught to others. We can all be mentors. And that's why I think that that particular plan, and things that we're working on as well, this idea of training trainers, empowering mentors, and making sure that everybody that has anything that could be valuable for anybody else, that they are activated. We may not have school, we may not have the devices, we may not have data, but we may have a community that supports each other as long as they have some guidance. So I absolutely loved, it was not long at all. The problem is that we could spend 2 or 3 hours just with each one of you guys, and we have a limit of time, but I think that it was fantastic, and it was exactly what we were looking for: practical solutions, priorities. And unfortunately, we have a difficult situation, but there are things that are going to make things better. So thank you so much, Leticia.
Could I say really quickly, Carlos, because I think it's so important what Leticia was just saying there, is we're talking to this Hack STEM community, and my dog wants to contribute as well. And it's so important that we embrace all ages in this problem solving and this moving forward. And I think so often we get stuck in looking to other adults, quote unquote, to solve the problems and to look to the future. And, you know, Greta Thunberg and Malala are just obvious, very high profile examples here, but kids leading kids, and kids leading the discussion and pulling out the problem solving for each other is so important that we get that right moving forward as well. Absolutely. And that's going to help with the engagement.
Absolutely, I absolutely love that. In fact, if we want to engage them and we never allow them to participate, it is going to be very difficult to even know what they would like to do. And if we enable that, thanks to initiative like Hack STEM, and now we're going to be listening more about it, but this idea of the co-creation, also knowing that kids are now digital natives and they are more able to use some technologies than some of the teachers. And that's why some of the teachers are a little bit, I would say, scared or uncomfortable with teaching STEM, because it is such a high growth and fast growth field that everything changes so fast that no one feels confident enough to say, I'm going to teach you this. But then if we can leverage the resources that are available online, if we can also co-create those classes and learn from each other, kids from teachers and teachers from kids, and also we allow these different generations to provide different types of value to all the others, I think it is going to be really something that is going to help us with that big problem of engagement that we have. Education is incredibly important for all of us. Many times we just simply don't realize how useful it is for our lives. And we just need to kind of like maybe shift a little bit the branding, because education is synonymous of books for people and boring things for kids, when in reality is not only fun, but also it makes your life automatically better in the next moment. And that happens if you're a teenager and I tell you to learn English because it's important, you may not react to that. But maybe I tell you that you're going to be able to flirt with more girls because there's international girls there. Maybe they get more incentive. Or if you're going to be able to play video games with people all over the world using English as well. So there's ways to connect both the professional side and the personal side to the skills that are being learned, and also to involve them to be a part of it. So I absolutely love your contribution as well, Stephen. And now, sorry that it took so long, Rocío, but I guess that we leave the best for the final part. Rocío, tell us, first of all, your thoughts about everything. We've been talking about a lot of stuff. Tell us your thoughts about it. We want to know more about why are we doing this together? Why HackSTEM? Why Siemens Gamesa? But also, what are your thoughts? What is your vision? Where should we go? Please just tell us your thoughts, because we're really looking forward to hearing from you.
Well, thank you very much. Well, then, there was a lot of ideas, and if I may, I would like to put them a little bit all together, and that will explain why we did that HackSTEM. No, we started 2 years ago as a social commitment to do some social work, and one of the things that was a priority for us as a company that is a leader in renewable energy and a leader in engineering was to make sure. We thought that one of the main problems was maybe we would not have enough talent, no? And we started to think of the different way to do it. And we already had something already exist. There was a gender gap. There was already a knowledge gap, very often, a problem of employability. But a few months later, we had the beginning of this huge pandemic. And suddenly, a few months later, there was more gender gap, more digital gap, and definitively more knowledge gap, depending on where you were living. We are in 90 countries. So it means that we have a lot of different culture and a different kind of people. And what we started to be more and more concerned was the fact that these inequalities could become at some point so much ingrained in a new normal. No? One thing is what we had before, but how are we going to be after? No? And about a very important point about what have been said here, and at some point you mentioned it, was the mentor, no? The importance of having an example, of having somebody to look at, no? And in that, I think that one of our main problem is that very often in those communities that unrepresented people, those minorities, they don't see role models in the society that they could say, oh, I can do one day, I could be an engineer, I could be, because that's what they live. They don't have these same opportunities, educational opportunities. And that's what was so important for us to start some programs that we will go and try to give them those opportunities. It's a little bit like in the movie Ratatouille, if I may, if you allow me to talk about. Anyone could cook. Anyone, the talent is everywhere. That doesn't mean that everybody's going to be a great cook, but that means is that talent is everywhere. And by saying that, and as you were saying before, the next generation, what we're gonna have, it's a lot of technology, a lot of new way to live, and everybody will have to have some sort of background. We have to make sure that these children all around the world have that background, no, that they need to have. So basically, that was the reasoning behind that HackSTEM event. And what we thought was, on one side, we want to have more professionals because we have a huge task in front of us, is to make sure that there is an energy transition. And this energy transition means that it has to be done in a way that is sustainable. We cannot start constructing things that after we don't know what to do with them. That becomes a problem. Then we need a lot of engineers on one side. And on the other hand, we thought, what's the best way to do it is to do what we do, is to teach that by solving problems, you can learn better. It's like when you're a kid, you learn by playing. Well, then to replicate that in all the programs we were doing. And that's why we were thinking that actually HackSTEM was the first project we started to work on. And the idea was precisely what Leticia was saying, is to put all the students that went through school and know what worked and what didn't, and everything was fresh in their mind, just to put the talent in something that everybody likes to do, is to imagine, how is my digital app is going to be? I want to invent, I want to do something. And that's basically what we are here.
Well, the rationale makes complete sense, and it is absolutely fundamental that companies are doing everything they can to find and attract the right talent, to retain the talent, but also to make sure that the talent is also having opportunities to grow even within companies, right? So it's not only that we find the right talent, but also it's what we do with the talent that we have to actually meet the demands of that energy transition that you're talking about, that is a challenge for everyone. It's all new, so it's constantly evolving. And the idea that you have people all over the world. First of all, you need people all over the world, and secondly, you have a team that is completely cross-cultural. We need to also come together and see what is the best way that we can support each other, and what are the ways that we can make inclusive, diverse environments that we leverage the value that all of us can provide, right? And that idea of the different cultures coming together in a company like yours is vital. But these initiatives, I think, are also good to support that. And the other question that I wanted to ask you is about public-private collaboration, with or without the involvement of society and citizens. But we have representatives from UN, from UNICEF, and from a foundation in this case. But I wanted to know your perspective as a large private company. How do you see that the collaboration with institutions, both governments and international organizations, can work? How can we make it more effective? Do you see any barriers? What can we do about them? How can we make our different projects, the ones that you're doing like HackSTEM and others, the projects that UNICEF is launching, the ones that Inés probably is involved in, the Lego initiatives, how can we sort of find a unifying umbrella initiative where all of us are just contributing, right, in a way that we support each other? Do you think that that would make sense? Can you tell me a little bit about your thoughts in this regard?
Okay, well, the same way that I was saying before about the before COVID and after COVID, and basically we already were talking a lot about partnerships. It's after all the SDG 17, and it's probably one of the most important ones in the sense. For us, it is obviously the 7 and the 13, what is climate change and what it is affordable and clean energy. But you cannot do any of those big SDGs. That is absolute. That is our roadmap, no? Towards prosperity for all of us. You cannot do that on your own. Yeah. I mean, all the partners that we have today, they are not only partner here, they partner in other projects, because I wouldn't be able to go to that. I want the children to know robotics. I think it is important because at some point they're going to need it. Then Lego is obviously the way to go. I want to make sure that students knows about the SDGs, because we're talking about STEM. Very recently, I was in a university with a lot of students, and I was talking STEM, and after 10 minutes, I was looking at them. They were all looking at me like saying, "What is she talking about?" And I said, "How many of you knows what STEM stands for?" And I had 3 hands. And you can have the same thing with the SDGs. We talk about SDGs. But if you ask, I think that's only 30% of the population know what the SDGs are. Yeah. And that's going to change completely our world very, very soon. Or it should happen very, very soon. Then if I don't work with the public sector, with the private sectors and with NGOs, we're not going to go anywhere. And as we're saying, we are in anti-countries. We need our partners over there. We need other stakeholders to be part of that process.
I absolutely love the way you put it. And that's exactly the way forward. First of all, because as big as some companies are, and you work for a very large company, it is still very, very small in comparison to the challenges that we're facing. And as large as the United Nations may be, the UN needs support as well. And you have the Global Compact and many different agencies, and they need support as well. And that's why there's these partnerships. But also every NGO, everybody needs support. And the funny thing is that many times we're working in silos. We work in one specific industry, one specific specialization. I work in this company. If we have a little bit of a wider vision and we start thinking about what are the projects that are being done and how can we join those projects and integrate them instead of doing everybody an independent work alone, I think there's so much more to be gained. And just continuing this part, I wanted to know Inés' thoughts on public-private collaboration. Maybe if Leticia and Stephen want to add something else on that, it's perfectly fine. And then we will go to a final question that is going to be general, because I am sure you guys are already inspired to talk for a long time. So I don't think I'm going to have to, limit your thoughts and whatever you want to share. Okay, so let's go with Inés, public-private collaboration, Leticia and Stephen, if you want as well. And then we move to the final question. Is that okay? Wonderful. Inés, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, when we talk about public-private collaboration, I would like to add one third actor, which is universities, which is the educational system, which is, well, in Spain, it's mostly public, but not so, not completely. In other countries, it's more private, but it's not exactly like talking about private sector in the economy. Yes. So I would say that universities are a key element in this equation because they are key actors in STEM education. So I would say that private-public collaborations are very important. The public sector sets policies and sets the legal framework and funds so many programs, for instance, research and so many other things. But and so many, for instance, in STEM, so many engineering projects of all sorts. So the public sector is so important in terms of regulation and funding. And then the educational system in terms of providing the education itself in collaboration with society, in relations, in close interlinks with society. And this includes obviously the private sector. And then the private sector has to first update the education of its labor force. Yep. Which is continuous education. That's a very important thing that has to be integrated with universities as well. I mean, there's a whole field of joint work with universities there, although more and more I find that a lot of knowledge is being created within the private sector as well. So that's a comparatively new thing, that all this educational activity that stems properly from the private sector. And I think there's a big avenue for collaboration in particularly in entry level. So in first higher education, but then in continuous education of the workforce. I think that's one of the key areas where collaboration can be and that the opportunities offered by online education and non-physical with physical presence education opens up a whole new area of partnership between the educational system, the private sector, and governments as well. And then, of course, in terms of cooperation with countries and with situations in which living conditions are very important, I think that their collaboration is even more important. The private-public partnerships in all the work that UNICEF does and that sort of work with low-income populations and refugee populations and certain geographical areas. I would say in that the opportunities and the need for public and private partnership is particularly important as well.
Well, thank you for that. It is absolutely clear. I think the way you put it is really, I would say, not only valuable, but also it is crucial to add the university side, and you have explained it very, very well. And I think that, you said it as well, these new opportunity that we have with digital education is absolutely huge. And I think that most people have not actually realized what this entails. One of the things that we are working on, and I think that it goes exactly in the way that you were mentioning and what I think Leticia is doing as well, is if you think about what education is, there's the vital role of the teacher and the role models and the mentors, but there's a big part that is content, right? Most of the content that we will always need to share with our students, no matter what age, is already available online. And the new things that are coming, they are, I would say, covered very, very fast, right? So we have that content, and still we keep teaching the same things over and over again, instead of using that material and adding a layer of mentorship around it, which I think would make a little bit more sense. And the cool thing about this digital opportunity that we have right now is that if we guide people all over the world with the right content, with the right skills, with the right information that they're going to need to improve their lives. And we do a massive campaign, both with the public and the private sector, to make sure that people receive that training. That is going to help a lot of people. But then for the people that don't have access to the internet, there's two solutions that I think are going to be interesting for the audience. One being that many places don't have internet, or people don't have access to data because they cannot afford it, but they do have devices. There's a lot of devices in Africa or in Asia, and people don't realize that sometimes the problem is access to the internet. So if you have devices and you have this content that we're talking about that can be curated by international organizations, by companies, if we have that content downloaded in those communities and we copy it through devices, we can reach very, very remote villages with people that can be helping to train on those contents. And even for people that don't have devices, those contents that are very practical can be done also as textbooks that are focused on skills that can help people grow. So I think that is something that, it is an opportunity that we have right now that was not available before. And public-private collaboration with the mobilization of local communities, I think, is vital. So about this, Leticia and Stephen, do you guys want to add anything?
And radio, Carlos, because for example, in Ghana, when COVID shuttered schools throughout the country, and UNICEF worked with the government on distant learning radio programs that includes gender responsive lessons in STEM for students and kindergarten to junior high school. So, I mean, there are many tools and ways in each country to adapt the solutions to the reality of the country. But our work is to reach every child, every young, wherever she is, and whoever is in the power and on the government. So this is our mission.
I absolutely love it.
And for everything.
It's radio, it's television, it is whatever means, but it is great also. Even we forget about communicators, we forget about media, we forget about influencers. Now influencers can reach millions of people. And I know that you have been working with them. Now it's key, not only for awareness campaigns, but also for training campaigns, the role also of communicators. What do you think about that, Leticia, very quickly?
That in every country you have to identify who are the leaders, who are the people that the community is listening to. Maybe you don't like them because they are not all the democratic that you will wish, for saying that very quickly and very badly, but this person will, for example, make girls and boys to get vaccinated, and this saves lives. Absolutely. So you have to get this man, this woman on television, wherever, saying it is good for boys and for girls to get vaccinated. When there is a misconfidence on that, on vaccination, when it's not that clear, when communities has maybe afraid. This is a very quick example, but I mean, it's the community leaders, and you have to identify very well them in each country, so the child rights are fulfilled for all of them.
I absolutely love that one. Thank you so much, Leticia. Stephen.
Yeah, if I just add on to that, I think what you see is obviously local leaders, people that people look up to and respect and listen to, role models. They're great communicators. They're people who can talk and people want to listen. And I think that's one of the universal skills we see a lot from teachers, right? Is that ability to communicate. It's ability to communicate not just knowledge that they have, but the skills they have, the pastoral care, the social side of the jobs that they do. And I think there's something here with the private public, if I was just to take it very black and white as, the education space and then private companies, or where there might be knowledge and expertise and skills being learned, and how sometimes I've invited people in to speak to kids when I was a teacher, or come talk to my class, come talk in an assembly, and these great skilled people, they're not teachers, so they might lack those other skills to be able to actually talk about, this is the job that I do, this is how I do it, this is how I can transfer some of my knowledge and skills to you. And sometimes it needs to come through that teacher perspective and through that output. So I think there's a great way we can collaborate, is finding who those people are, and if they're not communicators necessarily, let's connect them with people who are communicators, which often are teachers, and then allow them to do the talking and the sharing part, building on the knowledge and the expertise, knowing then it also helps the teacher, because the teacher doesn't have to sit in the classroom having all of the knowledge and all of the expertise in everything, which is a very traditional outlook on teachers, and they don't have to have that. We need to be telling teachers, you can be confident individuals. You might not know everything about STEM, but there's plenty, as you said, all the answers are out there online. You can turn around to a class and say, let's go find those answers. Let's go work at this together. Let's go problem solve together. And we need to give teachers ways to feel confident in being able to do that. So linking them to people who do have the expertise and the knowledge, or linking them to the internet and the digital answers that are out there, are two ways we can do that.
Absolutely love it. The empathy that a teacher has with the students is vital. But at the same time, you said it, you can invite people, you can use resources online, and you can do that exercise of looking together for the answer as one really clear example of problem solving learning, right? And I think that that is a fantastic contribution, Stephen. So because I guess that we have to start wrapping up, let's just go for this final question. And I really don't want to limit you guys. So just share with us whatever you consider to be something that either you're working on that you haven't been able to share, something that you think we have not been able to mention yet, whatever ideas you want to tell us, please just go for it. But we may not have a lot of time, so let's make it short and quick, but whatever you guys want. Rocío, let's start with you.
Sorry, excuse me. I thought that I was on. No, what I was thinking just before when you were talking about the importance of all these digital tools, what we can do nowadays, and as Inés was saying, all these opportunity was giving, and even for us and from the private sector, to jump in with I was thinking precisely about the remote laboratory, everything that students from very different universities, you can have access to resources that come from the best university in the world. No,
yep.
All these things that we have that we can reach and are so close to us nowadays. No, and how from the private sector we have to find a way. For example, we find it sometimes difficult to access schools and to go with solutions that we propose, and how we have to learn to not to invade that space that is a teacher space. No, we can provide an extra to the curriculum, but we still have to make sure that all of our systems, we still have this curiosity that is bring to the children, the opportunity to think, the opportunity. And that's why, and I think we haven't talked so much about the importance of the figure of the teacher, how important they are central, because when I was talking before about the role models, there's not a better role model than them. Let's sure that we'll make sure we make it possible that they have all the resources they need. And that's precisely what we are trying to do from our side.
I love it. The role of teachers is absolutely fundamental. And one of the ways that we envision teachers of the future is as, we call them improved experts, but basically it's like coach, guide, friend, someone that is there to help you develop, and someone that grows with you. And I think that having that is something that is good, not only for kids. We tend to think about education as something for kids. I think we all need that across our lives, and the role of those teachers and those role models and those mentors. A lot of times in business, we talk about mentorship and we have coaches and so on, but it's something that I think the whole population needs, especially kids. And we often just assume that teachers are just replaceable and everybody else either is fine or has a huge mental issue. Right. And I think that there's a lot of support that can be given by good teachers like the ones that we have right now, and the ones that we need also to convince to become teachers as well, or at least mentors, because a lot of people could be at least partially. You know, I run a company and I lecture in different places, and it is something that, you know, when you do it, you see how much value you can provide to others. And it's something that I believe everybody can do. I received mentorship from all of you today. I have learned a lot, and I think we can all mentor each other. That could be a part of the future of education, maybe. So thank you so much, Rocío. I love that. And I wanted to go now to Inés. What do you think? And what do you want to share?
Yeah, I would like to say a couple of ideas. First, education is not just giving skills in view of employment. It's something deeper and more important that regards the person and the formation and the maturity of the personality. So it's something far more complex. Yes. and deep and wide. And that's first. And so educating the person involves all of this. And that's one of the reasons why teachers are so important, as Rocío was saying, because sometimes, particularly in young kids in positions of vulnerability, very often teachers are in many ways replacements for parents who are not there or are not available or not functioning. So it's far more than friends. Something maybe it's also they can also represent figures of authority in the positive sense of protection and leading and counseling and helping, and that's very important for young kids, particularly those in positions of vulnerability. And also because particularly when we move into this digital age in which so much information is available, it's so easy to get lost in so much information. And so guidance among this mess, among this jungle of information, is something extremely valuable. And to provide guidance, you need people who are knowledgeable and whom you can trust, and who know more than you do, and that you rely on their leadership in a way. So that's a very important thing. So and then regarding digital education, I think we also need to think about all the basic knowledge of, like the established knowledge of humanity, like basic physics, basic science, basic mathematics. All this is in the basic courses that are taught at university in the first years of university. There are so many courses online, and the textbook. This is very established. But getting good education about that and good teachers. You could get that. Of course, sometimes it comes with a price tag too. So the price tag and the open and then the cost of accessing the good courses has also to be taken into consideration. But then anything that goes beyond what is established, and anything that is more innovative, more linked to the state of the art of work, of employment, of the most advanced innovation in technological areas, this also has a price, and it's not taught anywhere. And so not everyone will have access to that under same conditions. And so we need to tackle all these issues of equality of access, of price, and also of the formation of the whole person, and the role of teachers and the guidance in all this incredible amount of knowledge that we have around in our world.
Absolutely love that. Guidance is vital. Curating the right content is going to make a massive difference. A lot of the content is actually available, as you say. Some is not, but it's getting more and more available. If you see Khan Academy, they're expanding the content that they provide, and you can see, for example, there's videos of 8 hours on how to code in Python, and it's absolutely free, and the teachers are wonderful, and that is just expanding. And I think that this dichotomy between more and more expensive universities, at least in the US, and more available information all over the world that is actually provided by really good people that are doing it for free on social media, this dichotomy is not going to sustain for a long time. And I think that education as a human right is going to be basically open at some point somehow, and we're going to try to push that. And I think that you're doing that. Please continue with that, Inés.
Just one comment about that, because the thing that these universities do have that is not provided by the open is the personal relationships and the networks that you develop in those environments.
100%.
So that's what we are really paying for, in addition to other things. And this is what gives the extra access to professional careers after you graduate. So education that's why the whole of the person is involved. It's not only getting technical knowledge, and the whole person involves personal skills or interaction skills, the capacity to get certain ways of moving in certain environments, which is more cultural and has also links with social level and so on, and that's a very important part too, and that's where the mismatch will probably be more difficult to solve.
Absolutely, 100%, and there's definitely still a gap, and let's see what can be done in order to have more access to those mentors and more access to people and communities that actually help each other to learn those things as well. So do you want to continue, Leticia, or should I go with Stephen and then you? What do you guys prefer? Let's go with Leticia then. Let's start there.
No, for me is empowering all the people that is connected today and that is going to work on the digital tool, no, to foster STEM education during these days, to really go beyond, no, go beyond maybe the needs, the immediate needs, to think in a world of inequity and the opportunity that STEM has to equalize education. And to debunk gender stereotypes, reimagine this education, and learning what it means to persevere with tools like this one, no, and empowering, being models for other young people, and encouraging them to afford new projects. I have been reading these days for these roundtable works of Afghan girls that have created with STEM, like ventilators. I mean, many cases, many life stories around the world that are very inspirational for all of us. And that I will think that it will be very beautiful that thanks to this kind of this roundtable and the next ones, it gives like the inspiration, no, to think broadly and with all the challenges that we are having today in education, in cross-cutting with SDGs, as you said, no, as our aim to not leaving any child, any young person behind for 2030, wherever they are living now.
Thank you so much, Leticia. I absolutely love it. It is fundamental that we go in that direction. And I wanted to say also that Leticia has shared with us in the chat the report, and I think it is the action plan or the summary of the Reimagine Education program. I think that all of us should participate somehow. I don't know what the opportunities are, but we all should know about it. And I think that
there are opportunities for everyone, because we need investment and we need commitment and sharing the vision that is already done, as I am seeing. I mean, once we have the vision, then we just need the commitment and the investment. But it goes to each of the points that we need to go ahead and giving specific examples of measures that we'll need to implement, and also the quantities you need to make this possible in dollars. That is also very important in this life.
Absolutely, absolutely. Again, everybody has a role, right? And many times, we just think about what we can do as citizens, and then we feel that we are limited. Or sometimes you're an institution and you're limited because there's so many regulations, so many things that you cannot do. But sometimes you have companies that actually have the funds and they're willing and they don't even know where to put them, right? And that happens a lot, more than what we think. So again, everybody has a role. Let's jump in together with that project, with projects of Siemens, Gamesa, and Lego and others. And again, we are all going to be able to provide massive value. But we need to really start from the beginning. Let's train people to have a holistic view of how to face life and how to be valuable for others, right? Not only skills, as Inés was saying. And I think that the direction of this conversation has been really good, not because of me, of course, because I am awful at bringing together so many amazing ideas. So I am sorry that I am not able to convey everything that you guys could have said, but I am super happy to know that all these ideas have been really valuable, and I think that everybody appreciates them very much. And now, before we finish, we go to Stephen. Please tell us a little bit, what are your final thoughts? But again, I just wanted to take this opportunity before Diego kills me for being late, just to say that I am super, super happy to be a part of this initiative, and more importantly, to learn from all of you what, every single thing that you said, I think we can all share and we all agree on. And sharing the vision, as Leticia was saying, is a fundamental first step forward. Yeah. So thank you all so much. Stephen, the floor is yours. And then we just go and allow Diego to kill me whenever.
Yeah, we have 3 questions for the audience. So we have enough time for those. And if anyone has another question, please use the chat for that. Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you, Diego. Stephen.
Thanks. Yeah, so I'll probably bring it back to teachers again, I think, because I think we've made big strides in the last decade to have teachers seen as more than just the teacher. They're human beings with passions and interests and excitements beyond the knowledge that they can give to kids. I mean, it's the passion for the kids themselves that really drives who a teacher is. And we've been able to begin, through the work, through lots of the group that are here talking, and other people as well, to put pressure on ministries and ministries of education around the world and policy to start acknowledging that and saying, can we give more power to the teacher and the students in the classrooms to make their own decisions and to design their own curriculums, their own ways of learning, their own ways of teaching. But the key thing here is that you can give all the power to the teachers and the kids in the classroom, but the teachers still need teacher training. A very good example of that is Finland, where they opened up to a brand new way of, being very open about the way that the curriculum would work, what children could learn and the way that they could learn it, and what teacher autonomy was in the classroom. And I got to go see teachers teaching there, and it was amazing. It was incredible to watch. And as a teacher previous, I'm thinking, I want to come back into education and teach again, but teach like this with the shackles off. But then I was talking to a group of them and they said, yeah, but we don't really know what to do. Like, we're making this up as we go. And there was 50%, this is exciting, but there was 50%, but help us, we need that help. So teacher training teachers to observe, support, encourage, to be confident in themselves is key to this. And I think that's a part of what the Hack STEM group is going to be really looking at is what are the needs of those teachers, and don't forget that just because you give them free rein to do more things, that they don't still need training and they don't still need professional development. And I want to say one thing very quickly to what Leticia was saying. We have specific needs right now with COVID and how the world is, but we have to trust in kids. We absolutely have to trust in the kids that we have, because we were reading a story earlier this week where 3 14-year-olds in India were building ventilators out of Lego sets because they didn't have enough in their local hospital. Now, I'm not saying that to pat Lego on the back for making the kit. I'm saying that to pat the kids on the back for having that level of innovation and understanding and empathy for the people around them, to not just because they could go and do it, but they wanted to go and do it, and they saw the need and the importance of going and doing it. And I think that's a key message here, is really kind of building that level of empathy, grasping that level of empathy that kids naturally have. And that's part of the passion and how we can engage them. And STEM talks to so many possibilities of how they can then use that empathy and that desire to make change in their world.
Absolutely, Stephen. We normally underestimate the capacity of children and young people of creating change. And I think that precisely, not only because of what you were saying, but also the creativity that they have and the lack of fear of failing. They don't care because they haven't learned how to control themselves so much that they never get to have any idea in the future, right? That's what happens to us as adults because we are so concerned. But
they trust the process.
Sorry?
They trust the process.
Yes, yes. So if we trust kids, as Stephen was saying, if we give them the platform, and precisely Hackstam is that, because I think that many times we just overprotect them because we don't want child labor, and so we protect them so much that we think they cannot be involved in anything. It's like, no, they can be involved. It's just that you cannot force them into slavery, please, but allow them to be a part of the solutions, right? Allow them to be creative, and there's so much that can come out from that. So I love that, Stephen. And around the questions, Diego, do you want to introduce the questions? Do you want me to try and read them? I don't see.
You don't see them in the
I don't see
asking questions? Okay.
I see one that we actually covered, so I didn't include it. It was around the role of universities and how to bring them together.
Well, there are two questions from Elena Zarate, which are, you consider it's important to integrate the STEM in regular curriculum, and which is the best way to do it?
Who wants to answer that?
Quickly, I'll say then that the Lego education perspective on this is that, again, it goes back to problem solving. It goes back to that passion. So get them started on an idea, a real world problem, get them thinking about something where they could influence their local community to enable somebody to do something better or to help a particular person with a particular need. Once you start there, again, STEM can encompass so much of that. Now, science and engineering and mathematics, they probably have their place in the curriculum, right? They have their specific subjects. Science and mathematics are taught separately, but let's have a place in the curriculum. Maybe it's an afternoon a week where it's a problem solving, where you can then bring in those skills they've learned, the maths, the science as the knowledge, and then the engineering and the technology is the way in which they go about solving some of those problems. And the closer it can be to their own real world situations, again, you bring out that empathy and you bring out that desire and that passion to want to help and change the world.
Wonderful response. Diego, do you have the last one, I think?
Yeah, the last one is, well, it's about also the regular curriculum for basic education. Is convenient to do like private education and public education? Let's do the both education or associate both educations. Do you think that is good for everybody to do this path, to follow that path?
Okay, maybe for this one, can we get a very short answer from all of you? Like, okay, only private, only public, both from all of you. I'm not going to answer. Just want to know your opinion. Inés, Leticia, Stephen, and Rocío.
For UNICEF, like facilitate the transition to employment and livelihoods in the context of the fourth industrial revolution, that we can say like that, in traditional STEM careers and jobs is like requiring STEM knowledge. So I think that both for private and for public, developing and giving this STEM knowledge and skills in secondary education and university is, and training, technical training is very important. Yes.
And do you think that we need to have, because I think the question was also around, shall we have public and private schools, or shall we just have like a mix or something?
In general, I mean, education is a right for every child. So we should have like the right to have the access to education if we don't have like the opportunities to access to a private school. But
maybe having private schools sometimes in different ways could be useful sometimes, right? Because again, it's a matter of options. Inés?
Yes.
Yes, I do agree that we need both public and private because public ensures universal access, and then private provides diversity and options for choice. So I think both things are needed. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Stephen?
Both things are needed, and we need to ensure then that a decision about who is employable and who is not is made based on the decision of what school they went to, but what did they learn at that school, and what citizen are they when they come out of the other end of that school. But yes, I completely agree that we need as universal access as possible, so there is a place for public and private.
that speaks very well about not only school, but also universities. It is so clear the positive bias towards specific names. And I think that, at the end of the day, what we're seeing in many entrepreneurs, many large companies are starting to expect less degrees from specific places and more the actual capacity of doing things that they want. And actually, one very important thing that we've been talking around the whole roundtable, which is this the type of person that I want to have in my organization, right? And the same way that we're hiring people, they have to think, is that company the kind of culture that I would like to be a part of? We have to, I think that companies are doing that more and more. So it's going to be less, technical and less about the name of the institution and more about the person they are and the capacity and the willingness they have to actually provide value, right?
I went to Cambridge. I was very lucky to be able to go to Cambridge University. The very first job I got, I was offered it because I went to Cambridge, and I turned it down because I said, no, that's not the reason you should be hiring me. And if that's the reason you're hiring me, then I don't want to work for your company. So yeah.
That's very noble from you, and absolutely. Thank you so much for your answers. I have Rocío left, so please let us know.
If I can give a little bit of my experience, no? I don't think it's a question of means. I don't think it is a question of private or public. I think it's more a question of the mentality. I grew up in Switzerland in the 70s, and I can tell you there was no private school. Everybody was going to the public school. And what made that experience so different was the fact that we were learning to think, we were learning to find solutions. It was much more interactive. They were asking us more to put our curiosity to work, or at least is how I remember it. Maybe those have been the years, but that it's more. I don't think it's a question of private or not private. It's a question of just to make the talent go and to discover what you have inside.
Wonderful, because I think that here you can see, I think the audience can see that this roundtable is all about people that are, a lot of common sense, maybe besides me, but a lot of common sense and a lot of practical solutions for things and, realism, right? It's like, what can we use? What are all the resources that we have available to actually achieve a goal that we all agree on? So I just want to finish just by thanking again, Diego, Rocío, Leticia, Inés, Stephen. It's been wonderful. I hope that I matched the expectations. I did my best. And I am so, so happy to see that we all agree on the vision. And I think that the audience as well, the participants as well. So now it's time to continue working together, to talk more, to make the first of many conversations and the beginning of a new friendship and collaboration where we can actually make things happen in an actual, measurable way. Let's move things forward and let's work together.
Thank you very much, Carlos. A big applause for you and for all the speakers here
for all of you guys.
This roundtable. And now in 25 minutes we have another roundtable, the second one with the UPM University here in Spain, so we can also ask them the public or private university to them. So thank you very much for this very inspiration roundtable, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Diego. It was wonderful. Thank you all.
Thank you.